WDEB News presents the regular monthly meeting of the Fentress County Commission. The Fentress County Commission meets the third Monday of each month, and you can see it live on Channel 12 cable TV. It's a presentation of the Union Bank of Jamestown and Clarkrange, your reliable banking partner since 1904.
For more than a century, Union Bank has been serving the people of Fentress County. Now, as we begin a new chapter in our history of service, we want to take this opportunity to reassure you that while our building may be new, we're still the same friendly people you have known for years. Union Bank, the same people, the same goals, and the same commitment to you. Union Bank, your locally owned hometown bank for more than a century, growing to meet your needs. Equal Housing Lender Member FDIC.
We'll call this meeting of the Fentress County Commission to order. Will you please rise for the pledge to the flag by 5th District Commissioner Larry Cooper, then opening prayer by 5th District Commissioner Wade Matthews. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bow your heads, please. Most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to be here today, Lord. We just thank you for living in a country where we can assemble together, Lord, and just give us wisdom, Lord, to make good decisions for this county, Lord, and just be with our county and help it to prosper, Lord. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Okay, our first order of business is the roll call. Miss Marilyn?
Mickey McDonald. Here. Justin Miller.
Here.
Rod Williams.
Here.
Kim Davison. Here. Benny Hughes.
Here.
Robert Cooper.
Here.
Lester Gooding.
Here.
Leon Stepp.
Here.
Larry Cooper.
Here.
Wade Matthews.
Here.
All present.
Hope everyone's had a chance to look over the minutes. Do I hear a motion to accept last month's minutes?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Rod Williams,
Second.
second by Ms. Kim Davison. Roll call vote, please.
Mickey. Four. Justin.
For.
Rod.
For.
Kim. Four. Benny.
For.
Robert.
For.
Lester.
For.
Leon.
For.
Larry.
For.
Wade.
4.
10-4, none against.
10-4, none against. The next item will be the approval of the notaries. We have, I think, 3 new ones and maybe 6 renewals. The first one will be Taylor Shea Hart. Jonna Miller. Lisa Green. Then a renewal of Stephanie Shea Wright. Renewal of Tiffany Atkins. Renewal Linda L. Powell. Renewal of Crystal Mann. And a renewal of Kelly R. Crouch. Do I hear a motion to accept these?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Justin Miller to approve. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Mickey McDonald. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, likewise. Item number 6 is a tabled motion of consideration of Clarkrange Regional Business Park secondary entry proposal. Someone here to speak on to that effect tonight? Mr. Joy Wheeler.
I wasn't at the last meeting, but I'm assuming this was from the agenda. This was tabled from the last meeting, and we're just here to find out what the decision is. Is there something more we can get for you, or go toward this, what we're asking for, this match of $12,000 for wanting to do this entrance to the industrial park?
Does anybody want to speak to it, or comment on it, or?
I guess the question was, why did we need another entrance whenever we've already got one with a sign that's out there?
I'm pretty sure Rob explained that before, but I'll go through it briefly again. But we had some consultants from TVA that had visited the park, and that was one of the things that they pointed out. It was a lacking at our park because the entrance out at 62 is a pretty good distance from where the entrance of the park actually starts. And they said that you need to be able to see where the park property actually starts. And they recommended some kind of entrance at that point.
Another question was, somebody had stated that they didn't think they could get a pad poured on the site unless we had, or we couldn't get funding or something for a pad to be poured, and was unsure if we could get that in some type of writing or something.
Didn't they say they had been turned down for a grant because they didn't have an entrance
Right,
way?
and I had asked if they could get that in writing.
That was the reason that they were turned down, I think.
There is nothing in writing that I know of. Scott and Rob Andrews, the chairman, were involved in this. It was a phone conference when they told us this.
Who writes your grants for you?
Excuse me?
Who writes your grants for you?
Scott does. Our consultant.
I mean, my thought personally, I would rather see something that was getting us closer to a building being built for industry instead of spending more money on another sign. Like if we could use, they're wanting $12,000, instead of using it to build a sign, could we not use it to possibly go toward a pad or something?
Well, this is just another step to get there. We're just going based on the recommendations of TVA, and they're the ones that do this all over the state.
Well, I guess the question stands, could we get it in writing showing that that's what we need to do to build that pad?
I can't answer that. I don't know the answer to that.
Can you find out?
I could find that out. Yes, I can. Can find that out.
Joe, as far as the sign goes, was there any other drawings or quotes or anything of for sign? Is this the only one we've got? Could we put a bid out on that, or?
We bid out the design that we had.
Yeah.
The board agreed that that was the design we wanted.
Right.
And we bid that out for the sign and the stonework.
Okay. And this was low bid?
Yes.
Joey, who actually designed the sign for y'all? Do you know?
Jimmy, I
Okay.
can't answer that
That's
question
okay.
right now. I don't have that information in my hand. Again, I kind of assumed it was in the packet before when Rob came up here. I'm not sure. Rob was supposed to be here tonight, but I think he must have run into some kind of problem because he's the one that has all the information background. But again, this is, we're trying to go through all the steps we need to do to get towards this pad and get us approved as a pad-ready site, the park. So this is just one of the steps going toward that. And I think there was some stuff included in this packet that shows some other counties what they have in their parks, at the entrance.
I didn't receive that.
It was the email that was sent out.
Okay, an email, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Let me just throw something out here just for a second. Would it be better to, and I know y'all have your meetings at 8 o'clock on Friday mornings, and of course everyone sitting at the tables here, they work each and every day. Would it be feasible to have maybe a night or evening where the commissioners could be there and we could talk this over, y'all could talk it over or whatever? Would that there be feasible, or would it not be feasible, or?
It would with us. I don't think that would be a problem at all with us.
I'd had a couple commissioners ask me to ask that question, so,
I know I would be there.
because you're looking at, most everybody's about 5 o'clock, you know, getting home, getting in, so.
If that's what you'd like to do, just let me know and we'll set it up.
How hard is it to get somebody from TVA to come to me? How far in advance will we have to do to get somebody from TVA to just come and talk to us, like at that joint meeting? You think that would, are they hard to schedule?
I can't answer that. That's all I can say is I can't answer that. I know that they are, we're kind of in an infancy in this site. And they don't put as much work towards this as they do probably some bigger ones that are farther along. But, I mean, sure, we can ask.
Just see, maybe if we could schedule something and just invite them, they could send a consultant, just,
Again, I'm not sure if they would do it.
Can you work on TVA's timetable?
right, I mean, that may be something we have to consider. When could they come? And look at that first before we set a meeting.
Yeah.
And I had another question. Do y'all have trouble with vandalism out there on that property, or is it?
Not that I've, not in any of the meetings I've had, it has not been discussed.
Okay.
Now, previously, that could have been, but I've not been on the board except for this year.
Okay.
So I can't answer that previously.
Yeah, I was
Now,
just-
it is, this would be insured as well as our current sign is insured. And this one would be added onto that policy.
Because we don't have a gate up there right now.
No.
If we did do this entrance, would it be smart or maybe feasible to consider maybe fitting it with a gate? That's if vandalism is a problem. And I feel like it could be, especially if we did put a pad or something in, we'd hate for somebody to go out there and do anything to it. So, but I think a joint meeting would be, if we could do that, would be awesome.
We'll see if we can put that together. Are you guys committed to that, or
I don't know.
if we put something together, is the commission committed to that? Okay.
We need a motion on that?
Can we, so if you don't want to take any action on this tonight, we can move it to after you have a motion to set a date. We'll work and set a date to where the commission around 5 o'clock in the afternoon some night. Would that be feasible for everyone? And get it worked out to see, what's, to me, they're kind of learning toward the entrance gate, and to me it seems like the commission is more learning to put money into the park as into a pad or something other to show something, so get it worked out. Get it worked out, and if you want a motion, not take no action on this tonight.
I'll make a motion to table it.
Just take no action on it tonight, move it to a later date after the meeting with,
For a meeting with.
after your meeting, and
Could we go ahead and put it on next month, and hopefully we can have something done by then? If not, we'll.
if we can, get the meeting
Yeah.
together for everything.
Right.
Is that okay to hear a motion to do that? Need a motion to do that?
So moved.
Kim made a motion to move this to next month after a meeting with the ID board, and we'll get a date for that. Is that okay?
Now, is that going to be dependent upon if we get TVA here, or if TVA's not here, we just meet
I think we have to meet
amongst
before.
ourselves anyway?
If we can, it's awesome. If we can get them, but if not, we'll not let that delay us anymore, because we've already done that.
Anything else for me?
Kim made a motion. To hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Larry Cooper. Any more discussion? No more discussion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, likewise. Thank you, Joel. We'll get a
Thank you.
date.
Thank you.
We'll get a date set up. We'll get a date set up for this.
Thanks very much.
Item number 8, consideration of resolution 2019-10 for the approval of the proposed removal of a portion of Little Crab Road, Gooseneck Lane area from the Fentress County Road Maintenance List. Miss Leslie, would you like to address this first before we?
I'll start, Jimmy, and then Joey may want to come up, Joey Reagan, our road supervisor, and give us a little bit more detail on that as far as the road is concerned. But we had an application made to first the road, and the process is, because we have adopted a planning commission, that first the application to close or delist, is the technical term, a road from the county road list would first go to the road supervisor, and he would make a recommendation whether or not that road should remain a county road for maintenance and upkeep and remain on our road list. And he would make that recommendation to the planning commission, who would then take that up at a meeting, and they would review that. And then the planning commission would make a recommendation to you all, the full board of commission for Fentress County, to determine whether or not that road should be removed from the Fentress County road and maintenance list. Now, we have to be sure you all understand that by removing the road from the county road list does not mean that you all are quote-unquote closing it altogether, because oftentimes roads require that the public access them, whether the county maintains them and rocks them and grades them, does that sort of maintenance to them anyway, because there are other parties who may have interest along that road bed. In this case, the county was never deeded the road bed on which this particular county road that we've maintained all these years lies. That remains with the property owner. And over time, that property has changed hands, and I believe it is Beatty Lumber Incorporated that actually owns the surface, the land. Now, the county has maintained a road there for many years. In fact, I don't think we could find it, at least 30 years, but I'm certain longer than that, when the records of the highway department indicated that we first, as a county, maintained that road. But back when it belonged to Wilma Pinkley, and I think even before that with her family, the Reagans, that road was maintained as a road, because at the dead end of what is known by state road maps, Gooseneck Lane, but I think we have it as a portion of Gooseneck Road on the county road list, is the Anwood Cemetery. The Anwood Cemetery is a set-aside parcel. It is not a part of anyone's deeded property. It is its own map and parcel. At the entrance to this property is also the Marion Beatty Cemetery, which is a very small, I think 8 or 9, 1800 cemetery, which is also set aside by its own map and parcel. So those are the beginning and the ending points, essentially, of the portion of the road that has been requested to be closed. Now, it's my understanding, and Mr. Reagan can address this probably, and you can ask him the specifics of the actual road and what the road department does related to that, but recommended by his office to close the road because the portion of it that we maintained, it's pretty long. I don't know exactly how long it is, but it's a pretty long road. And then the Planning Commission also, as you can see by their minutes, made the recommendation to close that road, as far as closing meaning delist it from the county road list and cease to maintain it. Now, there are several parties, I think, who have mineral interests that still lie on either side of that road bed. We wouldn't be closing it and saying that you all can't access your mineral interest. That isn't anything we have any control over anyway. That is property right issues that exist just by property law. And basically, what we would be saying is, we're not rocking it, we're not graveling it, we're not maintaining it, we're not grading it, we're not doing all those things, we're not putting culverts in if it washes away. But we're also be saying that to the persons who have family members buried at the Anwood Cemetery, and perhaps even the Marion Beatty. Like I said, it's a ancient cemetery, and I don't think there's anywhere you could even bury anybody out there on it any longer. It's pretty much where it is taking up all the space. But at any rate, there were a couple people who wanted an opportunity to address this commission that I think addressed the Planning Commission as well, and I believe you all have allowed for an opportunity. But you may want to start with Mr. Reagan and any questions you have for him. I did a title search and title opinion. I think you all have that in your packet. In addition to that, the statute requires that we give public notice before the Planning Commission meeting, and we did so. A letter went out to, I want to say at least 20 and perhaps more than 21 or 2 people.
A bunch.
That we found in the title search were interested parties, but we also did the formal publication in the newspaper to determine if anybody wanted to come forward and address either the Planning Commission or this commission with any concerns as related to the delisting, and I hesitate to call it a road closure. And if you'll notice in the draft resolution that I prepared for you all, and this is a draft, this does not have to be what you all actually vote on, but it lists the language not as a road closure, but as a delisting and removal from the road maintenance list. And it also goes forward to say that basically we are not interfering with the property rights, whether that be surface rights or mineral rights or any other rights, any other interested party, whether that be someone buried at one of the cemeteries or family members. Those rights become between the parties themselves, so that they really have no bearing on the county any longer. We're not removing them, we're not saying that you can't access your rights. We're not saying you can't access the cemetery. We're saying we're not going to rock your road in order for you to do it. It's essentially. I think this is probably a lot of information, and some things I don't know the specific anything on the cost or the footage or that sort of thing. You all may have questions for other people, and again, there are a couple of people I know who want to speak.
Mr. Joy, you want to come up and kindly address it?
I think we got a question. Sure, please.
So if we say we're not going to keep this road up, whoever this belongs to now, they won't have a right to keep people from these cemeteries?
No, that you can't
They
keep
would
you
not?
cannot keep someone from the cemetery legally. There's a criminal action. I think we've had that actually come up in Fentress County once before, some protracted criminal and civil lawsuits regarding that.
So general public would have access still to these?
To properly access the cemetery now, especially one that is its own deeded parcel. You can't go back there and park and drink your beer and throw your cans out and claim you're back here at the cemetery. That in itself is a trespass.
Right.
But if you are someone who is legitimately accessing the cemetery for family members, for
Research.
genealogy, for burial, for whatever reason, those cemeteries must remain accessible to the general public.
Okay.
And that would be whether or not the county kept that road up, or if we had never
Without a
kept,
fuss.
or if we had never kept it up.
And they will be able to access without a fuss or a feud?
Well, if there was a fuss or a feud, again, blocking access to a cemetery, I think we learned the hard way, can be a criminal act and set you up for a civil chancery court suit as well. So, like I said, even if we had never maintained that road, you have to let people come to the cemetery, whether or not you.
I know when my
that's
mother's
just
buried, the landowners
Yes.
around it have made it very difficult to get to the cemetery.
And sometimes that happens, but especially one that is its own deeded parcel, it's almost like a buyer beware if you buy a piece of property. And we say at my house, we bury our dead in the front yard, and we do. But that means all of our family, doesn't matter if we prefer them to or not, get to come and visit whenever and however that they so choose.
But I have a question. But as a county, as a governing body, if we take this off the list as one of the county roads, we have no say. If somebody
That's
isn't,
correct.
if they are not allowed back there,
Other than the
it's not
criminal,
on us.
other
I
than
mean,
the criminal
it's-
statutes, we have no say. The road supervisor can't basically act as he could today and saying, hey, look, we're going to go back and fix this road up, and we have the control over it. Now, that removes the control. That puts it into the interested parties' hands to actually enforce those rules.
Because we have an owner now that I feel like would never deny, but who's to protect that from down the road? Like, 40 years,
Right.
20, 30 years down the road. Is there any kind of stipulation, or we lose all rights when we...
Once the county is no longer maintaining it and it is delisted, like I said, other than those criminal actions, which would be up to the sheriff's office to enforce, we would lose all right to quote-unquote control that road's upkeep and access.
No family should have a hard time getting to the cemetery where their people are buried.
For lawful entry into the cemetery. And I want to say, I know there's probably been some of that unlawful activity as there is on a lot of these cemeteries, but we just want to be sure people would understand it's whether the county maintains that road or it is left to the interested parties to maintain the access to cemeteries or to other things. It doesn't leave it a free-for-all in either direction.
So, long story short, access will be given to mineral right holders and descendants of people buried in the cemetery.
Yeah, it takes away the governmental function. It becomes an interested parties deal between themselves, essentially.
So, okay, so who's gonna make sure that the people that are buried in that cemetery, their family, who's gonna make sure that they have a road they can travel down? Who's going to put gravel on it, and who's gonna be required to do that? Is it gonna be the people in the cemetery? So,
Nobody.
If the county had never owned it, never maintained it, those persons who wanted to access that cemetery would have been the ones who would have been, they're the interested parties. It's up to them to
They
put
would
their own rock on there, take care of it themselves, if we had never done that in the first place.
Mr. Beatty.
It would be so hard-nosed that if you wanted to visit your relatives, you'd have to repel out a helicopter to visit, right?
Well, I think that would.
I mean, that's a little extreme, but
that was set up, that's probably falls in that whole criminal statute we talked about over here.
Mr. Beatty will probably address that in a few minutes when he comes up. Mr. Beatty will address that.
Since we've never been deeded the property, we've just been maintaining it, could the landowner shut it off whether we do this or not?
No, because at this point, it's like an easement by prescription. I mean, we've done it for so many years. We don't own it, but we have taken it upon ourselves to maintain it, and we have kept it open as a county road, so therefore it's on our list. We have exercised the governmental function of essentially controlling this roadbed access.
Mr. Joy.
How long a section are we talking about?
And that's questions I can't answer exactly.
5,500 feet.
Okay, Joy.
It's 3,005.4 on the little trap side, and 2,537.5 on the gooseneck line. That's all together is 1.05 miles.
It's a pretty good trip down there, isn't it? And when you get off to go to it.
And I'm not sure if you all have had an opportunity to, because this is just come over from the planning commission this month, to actually go down and take a look at it. I did so as part of my title search, and that seemed to help put it in perspective. And I'm not making any recommendation one way or the other. I don't care if you open it, close it, whatever you want to do. Rock it, tar it, chip it, pave it, gold pave it, doesn't matter to me. But I do think if you go down and take a look at it, you may have a little better perspective, because it's kind of hard to know how many feet that is and the distance just by what would be given here.
Joey, is the cemetery, it's been forever since I've been down there, is the cemetery toward the end of the road, or is there quite a bit of road past the end of the cemetery?
They just feed out past it, but they always maintain it.
Okay, started saying if the cemetery wasn't the whole way down, we could close it from the cemetery on and leave the rest of it open. You know, that way they would have access to the cemetery.
Do we know the people that maintain the cemetery? I mean, I'm sure there's a caretaker or somebody that nobody.
Maintain
Tim's been doing it.
it. We're not closing the road, we're just not going to maintain it. Have all the interested parties have been contacted?
And to the degree that we were able to find them through a title search and contact them directly, we did so, and we have that, and that was entered at the planning commission as well. That'll be entered. And then we put it in the paper, I think, and Amanda can tell me more if I can't remember, 3 or 4 weeks, we ran it.
And they all agreed to it, didn't they?
Well, no, I don't say anybody all agreed to it, but they were noticed. There's a difference in agreeing and having
And with all
notice.
the genealogy research, that could limit.
What was the reason for the recommendation to remove it? I said what was the reason for the recommendation to remove the road from the list?
Mr. Bacon's request.
Okay.
He'll be up next. Anything else for Mr. Reagan? Joy, thank you.
I have a question. Joy, how much money, I mean, does that cost a lot of money to maintain that road?
It depends on the weather and the traffic getting out of it.
Now, there is a little, like, we get our state funding based on miles of road, right? So,
Gas tax.
so is it relevant how many miles of road we keep, or does that not affect anything? If we So if they take them off the list, it doesn't affect.
Kim, I think you're thinking of the bridges, and
Is that just
previously
okay?
we had an Indian Creek parcel that had a bridge, and we had to notify TDOT. There was some bridge money that was in question there, but that was the only thing that affected with that particular closure.
Okay.
Was
I
because
knew there was
it had a
something
bridge
that tied a
issue.
little
Yes,
bit of
that's
money
correct.
to the road. Okay.
Joy, thank you. Mr. Nesbit or Mr. Beatty, who wants to be first?
Thanks everybody for listening to this. This ain't for no to closing the road off to any cemetery. I live back there. I have to keep up the road. Further the cemeteries go, I mow one of the cemeteries. Nobody never mows it. The maiden cemetery. And it's just for my interest to do it. I own all the land. There's nobody owns. I bought it all. Bought the other farm back there. Nobody owns behind me to get there. So I'm just for my best interest to do this because, you know, I get a lot of people down there that don't need to be there. And first cemeteries, I'm not going to deny anybody from going to see their descendants. That is not the ideal of this right here, you know. First, keeping up the road. I've helped keep up the road. You know, I've done work on it too, you know. So there's no ideal for me to stop people from going to see their people in cemeteries. And we have talked to some of the people back there, and they're okay with it, you know. But I have no idea who was against some of this, but I ain't going to close nobody off to the cemetery. Now, if I see somebody in there that don't need to be there, you know, I'll question them. You know, there's nobody got no business back there. First, access to the wells. They can access their wells. I'm not going to deny that. That's in my deed that they can access the wells. I'm not denying them to do that. I'm not stopping nobody from doing what they're supposed to. But I own it all back there now. I live back there part of the time and don't leave a bunch of people back there. If you get what I mean, you know, I'm not going to shut nobody out to go to the cemetery. Does anybody got any questions? And poachers.
Have you had any problems? That's what I was going to have. You had any problems in your fields at night?
Pickups, stand up back pickups, got pictures of them, stand up back of trucks down there with a gun. You know, and I don't know what to do, you know. I've not got a lot of, I can't control it as long as the county's got the right of way to it, but I actually own the land. If the county wants to keep it up, they can pay me for the right of way. It can go either way. When I bought the land, that was deeded right in with it when it's surveyed. So, anybody have any questions?
But as far as maintenance, you're willing to keep up the maintenance of the road?
I'll keep up the road. I mean, you know, I'll keep up the road. I've got to keep up the road. A farm back there, you know, I live back there.
So you own all the property back there on that road?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. There's no other interest back there, just yours?
No interest parties, no.
Okay.
Well, there's no other surface interest. The mineral interests are completely
Yeah.
separate, but he is the
Roger
only,
Compton is the only one, and of course, he was at the planning commission that day, and he's good with it.
and he has a access to his from Tompkins Bottom on the
Yeah, yeah.
other side.
That's not really, yeah.
This isn't his only access.
So on both sides of the road, you own property on both sides of the road?
Yeah, it comes to the water, all the way down from below Kitty Smith's, comes to Compton's Bottoms, I own it all to there, to the water.
Any more questions for Mr. Beatty? Tim, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Nesbit?
Thank you, County Mayor. Commissioners, my name is John Nesbitt. I'm a lawyer from Livingston. I'm wearing a bunch of hats tonight. I am the owner of an oil company called Ladaga Oil and Gas. It's got the oil and gas lease with John Pope, who was married to Diana Pinkley. You've heard Ms. Left there talk about the Pinkley-Reagan folks down there. I also represent, so that's two groups of people. Third group is the heirs of, I believe, a W.T. Reader have some mineral rights down there as well. I also, so this is the third group of people, I guess. I think the county's maintained this road for at least 30 years, I think Ms. Ledbetter said. I think probably longer than that. It's well maintained. Joey's done a great job of keeping it up. The biggest issue is there's one creek that it has to cross, and I'm concerned about the people to get to the Ann Howard Cemetery in a sedan, because of that, I think Joy put a plastic tile underneath it, and it's got some issues with it. Delisting this road isn't going to solve Mr. Beatty's problems. It will still be a public road. He can't put a gate across it. He shouldn't put a gate across it. He can't lock the gate. So he can't, this won't change his ability to keep poachers out from down there. The other thing that this is going to do is, it's going to save the county a little money. Like some at the county commission said, well, Mr. Joey might just want to delist all of the county roads, and it'd save the county a whole lot of money if they didn't have to maintain any of the roads in the county. The one thing it's going to cost you is it's going to cost the county money for Ms. Ledbetter to do an easement to all the people. I've not seen the package, but she's listed a good many people. All the people she's listed, I think this is right, Leslie. She's going to have to give an easement to each of us. It's what you said at the planning commission meeting. I don't know if you changed that idea or not.
Well, I think what we said was that essentially we would just delist it. That we, as part of this resolution, it basically says we're not going to do an actual easement to them because we don't own it. Mr. Beatty owns it. We are saying we're taking it off, and here are you interested parties. We are not. It's the same effect as an easement, essentially, in the resolution, but it says we are not taking any action against your use and benefit for those persons properly accessing the two cemeteries and/or their mineral or other interest in that. So essentially, that language is within this resolution.
There is another issue here, and that I don't know if this up there is found in the statute, but there might be a request from the cemetery folks to have people buried there for the county to maintain the road based on access to that cemetery. It's its own statute, and they could come back at some point and make that request to the county. You don't have to honor it or grant it. But there's also that avenue. I like the status quo. The road's there. It's a county road. It's been there, a county road for 40 years, and I just like where it stayed county road.
And we acknowledge and tried to find, and Jimmy and I went down and spent hours trying to determine who were the last people buried there and reaching out to them through both an actual notice and in putting it into the paper. If you are any of these persons and these are your people, come forward. And I think we determined the last person buried there was John Parashove, Jimmy's uncle, and that was in 1987.
I think so.
And we reached out to his daughter and some more, the last people who were buried there. So yes, we did knock that in the head as best one can, but again, those aren't anything that you don't know who all's buried there, because it's probably all of our people if you look back.
There is, if you've been down there, there's a third cemetery called the Reagan Cemetery that's not affected by this at all. The county road basically will stop, because our county maintenance will stop right almost at that road, and so it won't affect that road at all. There is a gate across that road right now, but as Ms. Ledbetter said, I don't think that particular cemetery has a deed to it.
Now, that cemetery is deeded, the J.D. Reagan Cemetery is deeded as part and parcel of Mr. Beatty's actual property. It doesn't have its own map parcel. It has not been set aside.
I am making it a deed as of right now.
So he's working on that, but that is its own deal, and it really didn't have any effect on this particular.
Right. No, but I wanted, if anything is down there, just wanted to know that
Yeah,
that
it's a
cemetery.
completely different cemetery.
And that's, it'd be like I said, at the end of the road, one of those funny lines, cemetery at the end of the road. Don't have any more questions? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so do you have oil wells down there? Is that, so how often are you accessing that road? Are you on it daily, weekly, monthly?
Pretty much daily.
Daily.
Project manager and Patterson's over here tonight. She was down there. Right now, we're trying to get the wells back up and running. We're down there almost every day. I'm down there a couple of times a week in my little Toyota Avalon. I could drive down that road right now. I don't know in the future what that might, how damaged it might be, or what it's going to take to maintain it. I don't know that it's cost the county at this point a whole lot to maintain it, but right now the road's in good shape. I can drive down it. I can't go flying down at 40 miles an hour if I can get down the road. And that's my point about anybody that wanted to visit either one of the cemeteries. Right now, they can get down it in a sedan. But you can imagine your grandmother in Delta 88 trying to get down this road in the future, especially if this little creek is washed out. She's probably not going to be able to do it with that four-wheel drive to go down.
Are the wells, are they active at this time, or are some of them red flagged, which they call red flagged, or red tagged?
We are, nothing is red tagged right now. We've got 3 wells producing right now that work. For 2 years, they weren't produced at all. The former former leaseholder took all the equipment off of it, so we're slowly putting the equipment back on it, putting some new tanks on it, getting them up and running. We're making, I think, 10 barrels a day right now down there. So we'll have a truck need to come down there, a semi basically, to take out about 200 barrels. Let's hope twice a month, maybe moving up to 3 times a month. And so, yes, that's part of it as well. And right now, the road is sufficient for that to happen. The semi came down at first of the month, I think June 2nd.
So might I say, from what is now the road that is there now, when you leave the road, y'all maintain your parts to the well, correct?
We put rock down. TDEC makes us have a road sufficient to get equipment to it. I grew up with logging roads, and there's a little gravel. You can tell where there's been an oil well because you'll see gravel on the road, gravel on the ground.
So actually, y'all maintain the roads going, if it went for 5 feet or 100 yards, y'all maintain off the main road, y'all maintain that yourselves, correct?
Off what's now the county road.
So you all are up for the maintenance on those, correct? That goes to your,
Yes, and it's not a whole lot of maintenance. We've had to do some this year. We've probably spent $10,000, maybe not that much, to bring some sort of earth moving equipment in there and put down some load to a rock. So yes, we're doing that as it is. But they're functioning now, and so we'd like to just keep it the way it is because it's got the potential to keep working. And like I said, there are 3 groups of people that I represent here tonight. I think all of them would like for it to stay how it is. Somebody was down recently and weed-eated the Ann Howard Cemetery, and so it is being maintained. It's flagged up down there. It is literally at the end of the road.
So I think you said that, so up until this point, those wells have been inoperable for 2 years. So that means you've not accessed them for 2 years? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. I got involved in it in January. The previous 2 years, as I understand it, they were not produced. I don't know who was down there producing them. They were drilled by Ms. Patterson, Ms. Dover's dad back in the 80s, and they were in continuous production up until about 2014. Ms. Patterson produced them, Dover produced them. She was the leaseholder and produced them from like 2004 to 2012.
So maybe 7 or 8 years they've not been producing.
Just 2 years. I'm sorry, Dan.
Yeah, that's fine.
The last 2 years, they weren't being produced. Landowner contacted me. I said, I think we can get them back in production. Like I said, we're making about 10 barrels a day. Ms. Dover said she was making about 600 back 2012 when they were producing. And these wells have been there a long time. They're not making a gazillion barrels of oil, but they're going to make oil. 600
a day or 600 a year?
600 a month.
A month, oh.
I'm sorry. Yeah, if I say 600 a day, I'd be really happy with that. But no.
We would be too.
Yes, we would. 600 a month, I think, is an outside goal. So if we did that, that'd be 3 semi-tractor trailers down on that road a month at 600 barrels a month.
So it's not a question of you getting access. We know that. You can't be denied. If you have mineral rights, you'll always and forever have access to it. But if your concern is the road maintenance, right? That's why you're...
Correct. And the county's done a great job for 40 years. And I would like for that to you've done a great job. Provide the road. You've got one person requesting to delist it. You've got me and 2 other entities that I'm representing tonight that would like to leave it as a county road.
Leslie,
Yes.
with that road being legally deeded to Tim, Mr. Bailey, I mean, what right does that give us to make this decision?
Well, again, we have maintained it. It has been on our county road list. It he owns what we'll say is the surface, but his predecessors in interest, people who owned this before, acknowledged that this was a county, public access, county maintained, county listed road. It's sort of what we call an easement by restriction, meaning we've accessed or exercised governmental authority over that land for the purpose of public access, meaning that we kept it up for the good of people. So basically, when he purchases it, it is part of his deed, but it's like a caveat that says, hey, the county is keeping this road up, and that's why you have to go through this process. Fully 50% of our roads, we don't have a quote-unquote deed for. They've never been deeded over to the county. But as you all can imagine, this being a road on the Pinkley property, being a road to 2 different cemeteries, at some point someone said, hey, county, come in and keep this road up, rock this road, we're going to give you the right to do so long as you all accept the responsibility to do so. And that's what we've done for it. And I think as far back as we can see was 30 years, but I'm certain
the previous landowner.
It's predecessors' interest,
Right.
the people who owned it, the Pinkleys and the Reagans, and all the people who owned it over, I think those are the 2 families over the years. Again, as you can kind of see, why we would have done that as a county, that's certainly an important function at that time, and there were lots of people buried back there then, not so many in the last few decades, but here we are, and that's just something you all may want to go take a look at. I can't advise you to close it or not close it. I can just tell you what, let me say, delist it. I hate that word close it. Delist it and cease to maintain it any further. But you may want to take a look at it before you take any action on it.
Any more questions for Mr. Nesbitt?
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mayor.
Tim, did you have something else that you want to say?
Let's get back to the right-of-way deal. He's wanting y'all to keep up the road, okay? Why does the county want to keep up the road for a company that's not even located in Fentress County? Another thing, if I keep up the road, for every 1 trip that I make down this road, he makes 10. Okay? At first, keeping up the roads, when the county ends, it's about mud. He says he keeps up the road, he don't. From where the county ends, if it's raining, he won't get in there. It's bad, you know. But now, if you all want to keep up the road for him, for his business down there, I don't see interest in the county of doing that. You know what's the county want to keep up the road for some interest for another company that don't even belong nowhere in the county?
After you pass the
I've got to keep up the road for him, because I'm going to keep up the road for myself. He does not spend a dime on the county, but he's not put no rock nowhere. He's come off and he's put a few rock out in some of the wells and places, but he ain't everywhere.
So when you go on past, is your cattle gates and stuff on past the Anwood Cemetery?
Yes.
So you have to keep that road maintained stuff for you to get to where your cattle are at the end of the road.
He has to get in there. If it's wet, he can't get his trucks in there to get over.
But as far as getting back to the gate, where you go back there to take care of your cattle, you have to keep
it.
it.
Anwood Cemetery with no problem, but when you leave there, you know, if it's raining, he'll not get his oil out.
I think what the county has done, and it appears just from, and again, if you see it physically, you can tell a lot better. We've put enough rock, and it's not tar and chip on that portion, where a hearse could pull up and back into the cemetery.
Oh, yeah.
Just past the actual cemetery entrance. So the county has kept it up enough at that point in time before there's any gating, so that a hearse could pull all the way up and back into, or pull into and then back out of the cemetery successfully and not get stuck.
But I'm just looking at the part, he wants you all to keep up the road, for his point of view, for the whales. The county's not got no interest in none of the whales down there. Why should you have interest in that road, keeping it up for them? And I'll rest on that.
So what you're going to do, you're going to maintenance the road to the cemeteries. And any more questions from anybody, or any more questions for anybody?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion
based on the recommendation of the Plan Commission, that we,
And Joey Reagan.
and the road superintendent, that we pass a resolution
Delist.
to
Delist.
Delist.
maintain the road.
I second that.
Motion has been made to delist this roadway by Commissioner Benny Hughes, seconded by Commissioner Mickey McDonald. Any further discussion?
Yeah, is this gonna open us up to anything else down the road, or?
In typical lawyer fashion, everything opens you up to potential, and I hope given that title opinion make that clear. Essentially though, once it's delisted and removed from the county road list and we no longer maintain it, we are, we talked about earlier, removing our control of that road, but then it kicks the ball over into the court of the interested parties, meaning it becomes between them at that point in time.
Okay.
So we know for a fact they, no matter if this is listed or not, they're going to have a right to their mineral rights, and they're going to have a right to their cemetery.
Those are laws.
Regardless if we call it a county road or not.
Those are state laws.
But it just won't be up to us any longer to control that, other than if there is an issue, and like I said, we've had this before, then it becomes an issue getting law enforcement involved, or they can have their own civil suits between the parties as to who's going to pay for this, or who's damaged the road, and who needs to keep it up. But that takes it out of our purview as a governmental entity.
Any further discussion?
Because it's always going to be a public access for the purposes of the interested parties. Now, again, what we're saying is, don't be going down there poaching because you got no property right and you got no right to the cemetery, and don't be going down there throwing your beer cans out, because those things are trespasses. Those things are essentially trespass even with the county owning it, but only on the limited areas that were actually the cemeteries.
And so that would allow him the right to put up signs warning people to not be down there, right?
Interested parties and persons lawfully accessing either of those two cemeteries.
Mr. Beatty, you will put those signs up, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. I think that it makes a difference, yeah.
Any more discussion from anyone? Roll call vote, please.
Mickey? For. Justin?
For it.
Rod?
For it.
Kim? For. Benny?
For.
Robert?
For.
Lester?
For.
Leon?
For.
Larry?
For.
Wade?
For.
10-4, none against.
Motion passes 10-4, none against. I appreciate everyone that come up and spoke to this here motion and such consideration tonight. Thank you very much. Number 9, consideration of resolution 2019-11 for the approval of the HCA grant from the state of Tennessee in the amount of $50,000. This is a 95.5 match requirement and will go to the Fentress County Ambulance Service. Micah Dunford, would you like to address this?
With a, I guess, for lack of better terms, a series of unfortunate events that we're in our medical center here opens us up to a opportunity to apply for a grant through the state of Tennessee for the amount of $50,000, like it says, for up to $50,000 as a 95.5 match. You fill out an application and you have to give rationale as to why this equipment that you want to purchase or whatever you want to use the money with will aid or benefit the citizens of your county and your service. With our distance to hospitals now, and we took into consideration that, along with reasons that we need maybe extra hands on the ambulances. We're going to purchase or attempt to purchase, if approved for this grant, 2 automated CPR devices that will do CPR compressions for us as long as the battery's working, which will be longer than our transport time. 2 lift devices, which like 900 and something pounds, so we get a lot of calls to assist patients out of the floor and stuff like that, and sometimes it takes extra hands to do that. And then we're going to purchase 15 AEDs. The plan for that is, and I've spoken with the sheriff, is to maybe put those AEDs in some of the patrol cars that the deputies that are interested, because they're out patrolling around the community and stuff like that, and they may be able to get there just a little bit quicker than the ambulances can, because they may be in that community. So that total came to like $48,000 and some change total, and our part being $2,440 something dollars for change there as well. So I've sent the exacts to Amanda, and I don't have them on this paper here tonight. So that's what the resolution is for.
Could you explain to the public what AED is?
AED is an automated external defibrillator. You place it on, if anybody's ever saw it on TV, they use the paddles and stick on somebody's chest. These are sticky pads that take the place of that. And they go on your chest and on your side, and they're smarter than we are. They detect a shockable rhythm. If it's not a shockable rhythm, it will advise you to begin CPR again. Or if it is a shockable rhythm, it will shock for you.
So, Micah, anybody can basically be trained to use one of those,
Yeah,
right?
that is a standard training now with CPR training. So you get that CPR and AED training together.
So there will be no additional liability if our officers learn to do that. In fact, they should already, once we have CPR training.
Most of them had it at least in the academy. Some kept it up, some didn't. So, but we will retrain. We have training officers in-house for that, so that would be no problem.
Do we have them do the fire departments have those already?
The fire departments do not. And one of the things with the fire departments is they're not in-house. So if you page a fire department to go to that, they've got to get in their vehicle, drive to the fire department, grab the machine, and then travel to the residence or business or wherever they're dispatched to. With the sheriff's department deputies, usually they're in their unit, in their vehicle, hopefully in the community as well.
So the courthouse has one.
The courthouse will
The senior citizen has one.
Yeah, we've made sure and we've started putting those around just different areas. Just, when things happen, it makes you think about all kinds of things. And that's one about, of redoing and knowing where we have AEDs and where we don't, where we may need them. So this grant just allowed us to purchase, this automated CPR devices. That's about $10,000 a piece for those. So they're pretty expensive, but you talk about doing CPR for 45 minutes, I definitely can't do that.
Will you check with the city of Valor and see if they have one? And possibly the city hall.
The sheriff and I have talked, and we at least want to try to get one in all the road deputy cars, the people that's going to be out patrolling around the neighborhoods and stuff. And that'll leave us with a few, 2 to 3, maybe 4 extra that we can check, and maybe in public buildings and put one in as well.
Be sure and check with Mayor Clark at Allard, and then make sure the city of Jamestown has one also.
Absolutely.
Robert, tell us about the schools and the AEDs.
Well, of course, we've got, at the high school, we've got 2. And we got one in the gym and then one in the front. But in all of our elementary schools, we've got one in each school. And by law, we have to train everybody there, as far as the student body, teachers, and everybody, every year, how to use that, where it's at, and how to use that. So, it is a marvelous thing, and I refer back to this when we start doing our trainings. At York Institute, it's been a few years ago, they just had got theirs and just had got trained. And one of their janitors walked in the gym. And
She's right over here.
And
Alice was the one that...
Alice actually run and got the machine, and if it wasn't for that machine, this gentleman probably would not be with us today. So it is that they are marvelous, and a dummy like me can use one of them.
I have another question.
Yes, ma'am.
This concerns me a great deal because, we have so many parts of the county and we know where we are located. Access, if somebody's having a heart attack, we only have such a short amount of time. is there any way we could designate a touchdown station that we know, like the sheriff's department, that there's somebody there 24 hours a day? If you're having a heart attack, there's going to be an AED unit there. Could we think about that? Like, because, if you're having a heart attack and you're in Jamestown, hopefully we could get an ambulance too, but just something, I'm just trying to think, is there any way we could designate, like, there's going to be an AED here and this place is open 24 hours a day?
Those thought processes, believe me, for the last 3 weeks have allowed me to have about 2 to 3 hours of sleep at night. And so, it's hard to say because, say for instance, Friday we had a big emergency and all those vehicles, have gone there, and you hate to let somebody slide here to the chance of somebody maybe coming here. So it's really hard to align that. It's hard to keep those buildings always open 24/7. We could say the Clarkrange Annex, but it's hard to make sure that an ambulance is always going to be there at the Clarkrange Annex 24/7. So it's really hard, and that's where we thought about the road deputies. Usually they're around somewhere in a vicinity. They have a south end and a north end unit at least, and maybe somebody in between going back and forth, and 24/7. So that was our best bet. Because more than likely they're not going to be leaving the county. They'll be there. And
so if you activate 911, at least maybe they could come out 297.
And most of the time on those calls, those unresponsive type calls, dispatch will send a deputy. 99.9% of the time, a deputy will be there as well. So, the chances of them beating us there are pretty good most of the time. So hopefully those road deputies will.
How many of these AEDs were AADs, or they AADs or
AEDs?
AEDs.
Yes.
How many of these are you looking to purchase?
These are 15.
15?
Yeah, they're like $23,000 for 15 of them. So they have to, meet certain bid criteria through the state, and you can get on Amazon and buy them cheaper, but you don't know where they're coming from, and these are reputable companies that are selling these devices.
Micah?
What brought this to our attention was Dakota Simpson. He called a couple weeks ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it was due to the closing of hospitals across the state of Tennessee. And he said, of course, ours hadn't closed at that time, but we was in such default with it being a diversion at that time that he thought there would be some money there, and would we be interested in it? And I said yes, we surely would. And so it went from there, and then about, less than an hour he called us back, and so, but that's one of the reasons that we have them, and we're very tickled to be able to get this money, at a 95-5 split especially. So hopefully hopefully all we have to do this stuff is just charge the batteries. That's what we're hoping for.
Batteries every few years. Never have to use them.
And the county, we match how much, 2,500?
Yeah, it's a little less than 2,500. Yeah.
I think you didn't answer my question, but do these things have to be recertified or some year check, make sure they're working?
They have system checks on them, like the check mark and X, that's even dummy proof. If there's an X on it, something needs to be checked out. If it's a check mark, you're good to go. And, the batteries and the pads that send them have expiration dates, and you just change those and all that. So, we can make that standard when they come in. Those road deputies renew their CPR. They'll stay up for at least that 2 years. We do a monitor check at that time, in their cruisers and make sure that everything's good there.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Can I take your pick here? Motion by
If it's so easy, can I do my budget or anything?
You may sit down. Ken had a motion made by Commissioner Rod Williams, seconded by Commissioner Robert Cooper. Any more discussion? Roll call vote.
Vicky. 4. Justin.
4.
Rod.
4.
Kim.
4.
Benny.
4.
Robert.
4.
Lester.
4.
Leon.
4.
Larry.
4.
Wade.
4.
10-4, none against.
10-4, none against, motion passes, and we certainly appreciate ECD for that. Item number 10, consideration of the Tennessee Department of Transportation offer to acquire real property, Track 157, which includes the Clarkrange Fire Department and the Clarkrange Convenience Center. This, of course, we all know is in the projection of the new road coming through, which we were at a meeting last Friday, or Thursday or Friday, in Crossville with TDOT, and they are letting the bid for from I-40 to Potato Farm Road. They'll let that bid out in the fall of this year. It will be start under construction, hopefully sometime in January, February of the following year. And then in the next fall, they will be coming to Low Road, sometimes late summer, early fall, and they will be letting the bids for the bridge, which is from Low Road in Cumberland County to Little Road, which is right there by the general store in Clarkrange. And so this, what we have there is the property of the fire hall and the convenience center. This will be accepting the price that they have offered. They came in a couple years ago and offered a certain amount, and at that time the commission asked that they would, we could get 10% more, so we passed that, and they gave us a total of what they will be giving us will be a total of $200,700. We will be purchasing back the compactor that is there at the convenience site, which we'll be paying them back right around $7,000 for it. It's like a $30,000 or $40,000 piece of machinery. It's almost new, so we'll be purchasing that back. So the total that we'll be getting from the state for that piece of property and the equipment, the buildings and such, is $193,050, and that there will go to purchasing more land and help to start rebuilding the fire hall and also the convenience site at that time, if y'all accept this tonight. So we have, after we sign the contract, after tonight we have 30 days to sign the contract, and then we have 90 days plus give or take a little to have the site removed. And then at that time, when the site is cleaned up, they'll come back in when we get all the stuff moved out, which there's some more funds available that they'll be giving us for moving some of the materials and stuff inside the building. All will be there left will be the fence and the two buildings, and they will completely demolish all that, so it'll just be a flat piece of land there, and that will go back into surplus property. It'll have to go into surplus property, and at that time we'll have to auction that piece off at that time. So with that being said, I'm sure y'all have read over the information here, and that's where we're at. We're waiting on a motion to accept this.
Make a motion to accept.
Motion been made by Commissioner Lester Gooding, second by Commissioner Leon Stepp. Any further discussion on this at all?
You said we were selling the property.
We have to go to surplus. We're selling this to the state, and they're buying our business, what you might say.
Okay.
And then the property, they're selling the property that is.
They're buying the lock and stock, but not the barrel.
Yes, and then it will go back to surplus, and we will be selling approximately not hardly a half acre. It's like 400s is what we selling. But it all tells in there what they gave us for the land and the whole nine, everything. So. Motion been made and seconded. Any more discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Matthews. Justin.
For it.
Rod.
For it.
Kim. Benny. Robert.
For.
Lester.
For.
Leon.
For.
Larry.
For.
Wade. 10 for, none against.
Motion passes 10-4-0 against. Our next item, number 11, is consideration and approval of the Fentress County Jail food proposals. We need someone to address that. Mr. Tyler?
The first bid holds your food. The second bid listed in there is a separate bread bid. Cisco and IWC is mainly your food, Mayfield and Borden's your milk. If I have questions on pricing, or get a chance to review your bids.
Tyler, I took a little time to look at these and compare some items between IWC and Cisco, and what I found, IWC tended to be quite a bit cheaper price-wise. Did y'all get a cumulative total to compare the two? But I just did it by item.
I think IWC is what they primarily use.
Okay.
But they've used IWC and Cisco, whichever cheaper on stuff in the past.
Okay. So does this allow them to go between the two companies? They can shop between, are we committing to IWC total, or?
Between items, they can take the lowest bid.
So they can? Okay, so we're not stuck with just one or the other. They can shop.
I guess the main decision one is Mayfield or Borden.
So we have to commit to a milk, can't we?
Well, they're like product for like product.
Okay. Just looking, I would assume the most common used item would be the 8-ounce milk. Is anybody here? Michael, do you know which is the 8-ounce milk carton's probably the most common thing that they use there for the inmates, the little?
The small carton.
2%, 1%, or fat-free? Fat-free.
Fat-free, okay.
1%. 1%?
That's probably the easiest way to make a comparison between the two bids. If you look at what they're, probably the most consumed product, and then probably.
Borden have it last year.
Where's the Borden price at here?
Did Borden have it last year?
Borden is 23 cents for those. I don't know that we have a bid sheet for them. It's 23 cents versus 30. If you look Mayfield, and I just went with the whole fat, and the 8-ounce, if you go to the whole milk pure dairy, there it's 30 cents for an 8-ounce. And then they've listed the
Question.
You say it was 2% they're using?
I don't see the bid sheet for Borden's, is it?
It's on the front right there, Kim.
Well, it's handwritten, I didn't see the
Down at the
breakdown.
bottom. Oh, I
I've got one printed bid sheet in there, and it's skipped on scan or skipped on a copy.
Okay.
Borden just wrote in.
It's just
Their
hand-
bid sheet come in, yeah, their bids don't come in here, it's nice, make those look here, it's nice, but I mean, that's not what we're awarding on.
Is that 23 cents for whole? Because it just doesn't say.
23 cents for 8-ounce cartons. So that's the way that they put their bid on.
Regardless if it's whole milk, skim milk, 2%, it's 20.
Do you, Rob, how many people are employed here in the county of Mayfield? You have any idea?
So do they have a route guy that works?
How many is employed?
Or is it just coming like a drop shipment kind of thing?
They do the schools up here too, and they do York Institute.
So they have a regular route guy?
Yeah.
Well, they do not do York
Well, he told me today, well, they were putting a bid on York Institute.
I think they do York Institute.
They do not do your compensation.
No, Mayfield does.
How many people in the county is employed by Mayfield? Anybody know how many people is employed by Mayfield?
I make a motion that we go with Borden.
Motion been made by Commissioner Wade Matthews. Go with Borden. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Rod Williams. Need a roll call vote, please.
Mickey? 4. Justin?
4.
Rod?
4.
Kim?
4.
Benny?
4.
Robert?
4.
Lester?
Against.
Leon?
4.
Larry?
Pass.
You say pass.
Yes, sir.
Pass.
Wade?
4.
8-4, 1 pass and 1 against.
8-4, 1 pass, 1 against. Now to the bread. Is that correct, Tyler?
Flowers is on bid.
Flower was only bid.
Pretty easy on that one, man.
Need a motion to accept Flowers' bid on that.
Don't move.
Commissioner Benny Hughes made the motion to accept Flowers' bid. Here a second.
I'll second that.
Second been made by Mr. Robert Cooper. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Mickey? 4. Justin?
4.
Rod?
4.
Kim?
4.
Benny?
4.
Robert?
4.
Lester?
4.
Leon?
4.
Larry?
4.
Wade?
4.
10-4, none against.
10-4, none against. Motion passes. Item number 13, consideration of an amendment to the Fentress County Handbook Compensation Plan that clarifies that part-time employees are eligible for annual raises as recommended by department heads and approved by the commission. Becky, you want to speak to that real quick, like?
So I think through the budget committee this year, we've noticed that our handbook didn't specifically say that part-time people weren't eligible, and we wanted to clarify for all department heads that part-time individuals would be eligible for step increases or pay raises as determined by department heads and passed by the budget committee and the commission. So I think when I looked back, there have been some part-time individuals who have gotten raises, but it hasn't been consistent across the board. So we just are trying to bring consistency and putting some guidance in the handbook for department heads.
Do I hear a motion to that effect?
Question.
Wait for a motion first. Hear a motion?
Make the motion to accept.
Motion.
Second.
Motion been made by Lester Gooden, second by Kim Davison. Discussion.
So will that be just a regular step increase like everybody gets? Because this says that it is based on the department head recommendation. So does that mean that they're not going to get automatically a step increase unless the department head?
I think it mimics the statement made in the original paragraph at the beginning. The last sentence of the first says the wage scale establishes a starting wage for each job, and annual raises will be at department head recommendations to the budget committee and approved by the commission.
So this is just saying they can possibly get a raise. This doesn't say that they're getting a step increase. So that takes us back to where we were to begin with, correct?
Still not clear on it.
No.
But the way it was taken before, people just, a lot of departments just automatically assumed that part-time didn't even include them when they were presenting their budgets. They didn't even put a raise in for part-time. And when we're talking about that, we're talking about permanent part-time. We have part-time employees that have been with the county 10, 12 years that have never got a raise. And so sometimes it's harder to find somebody that can work part-time than it is to find somebody that can work full-time and offer benefits. So this just opened us up to go into consideration at budget time. If you have a part-time employee and the department head wants to give them or consider them for a raise, it can be presented.
So they won't be eligible for the step increase. It will just be raised.
They can be.
A raise.
They can't, what if
They're just not limited, they're not limited.
we had department heads this time that asked for, we had some that asked for 2%, we had some that asked for 20%. So it's just gonna be to pay, and it's just that they can now know they can consider part-time, and they can ask for whatever, but it's all gonna depend on what.
But they won't
financially.
automatically get a step increase like
No,
everybody else.
we took that away from everybody. Nobody automatically gets this. In the past, we'd always it was in place that every county employee on your year anniversary, you automatically got a 20-cent raise. And what we did in the last couple of years has been to actually, let's look financially where the county is. You know, we want to give raises, we want to give more than 20 cents if we can, but if financially we can't do it, we want to be able to say, I'm sorry, you know, this is a bad year, or whatever, we're going to have to hang tight. So that's kind of just that. So.
And whether you're full-time or part-time, the beans and taters still inflate. You still need raises every time if you are a part-time person.
Exactly.
I agree.
And it wasn't, I just don't, like I said, I don't think we can track it back where it happened, but like I said, we have some part-time employees that never, they work for you, they've dedicated years to the county and not got a raise just because that was overlooked. And it's just kind of some housekeeping. So we
There is no consistency when I look back. Some have, some haven't. 1 year they may, 1 year they don't. So I think that this would just give guidance. But it always comes back to approval by the commission to the raise. But also I think that we don't want to overstep our bounds by not giving our department heads control to make recommendations.
Any more discussion? Roll call vote.
Mickey?
For.
Justin?
For it.
Rod?
For it.
Kim? For. Benny?
Four.
Robert?
4.
Lester?
4.
Leon?
4.
Larry?
4.
Wade?
4.
10-4, none again.
10 for, none against. Item number 14, discussion of surplus property parcels that were no bids at the prior 2 property tax sales. Ms. Leslie, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, thank you. I think in February of 2018, there was a vote that said basically these parcels would be included in the May of 2018 tax sale. These were parcels that came up for 2014, or 13 and 14 rather, and so we tried them for 2 years, and there were no bids at 2 tax sales. And the statute gives the county the option either bidding them in or essentially giving them a try again, and that's what we did. So for 2 years, all of these 4 parcels were never bid on by anyone at any of the tax sales for whatever reason. So at that point in time, the motion and the vote was to, at the end of this redemption period, which ended in May of 2019, that these would become property of Fentress County. Now, in doing so, we actually take ownership of them, but we don't get any tax money from them either. The taxes, the delinquent taxes are wiped out, and you can see the totals there. I think one of them is $1,200, and maybe one of them is $1,400. They're minimal tax amounts, but they are parcels of property that the county will now own. And I realize the county is not in the business of property ownership, but I can tell you that at this point, these can be, as any surplus property in the county is, eligible for just a public auction. You don't have to meet a certain minimum bid of what's owed for taxes, because now the county is the owner. So in the future, there's no need for a vote here, because as I said, there's a previous vote that said if they don't sell at this 2018 tax sale, we'll keep them and try them at a public auction later. And again, that's what the statute tells you to do. But I just wanted y'all to be aware that they have come back into Fentress County hands. These deeds will be recorded. And at some point in the future, if you all see the need to hold a surplus property auction, these are parcels that are available to you.
Thank you, Ms. Leslie. Our next item is going to be consideration of a whole bunch of budget amendments. Mr. Joy, do you want to start off with the highway department?
One line item.
Most of it's going from operation and maintenance equipment, and highway bridge maintenance. That's where it's going to, and it's coming from surplus equipment and highway and bridge maintenance, salt, operation and maintenance equipment. Correct, Joy?
Yes, sir.
Motion set.
Motion by Benny Hughes to accept the highways budget amendments. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Lester Gooden. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Mickey. For. Jason.
For it.
Rod.
For it.
Kim. For. Benny.
For.
Robert.
For.
Lester.
For.
Leon.
For.
Larry.
For.
Wayne.
For.
10 for, none against.
Highway Department passes. Joey, thank you so very much. Tyler, do you want to go do the THDA?
This is for the THDA grant that we received, Amanda Maynard, and I think Amanda Deeds actually kind of monitor that grant and take care of those funds. And most of these budget amendments you'll see throughout here is cleaning up the budget for the end of the year. We'll still have some to go for hopefully recess meeting on the 27th.
Do we hear a motion?
This is all the grant funds that came in and been paid out.
I so moved.
Motion by Commissioner Leon Stepp, second by Commissioner Kim Davidson. Roll call vote. Any discussion? Sorry. Roll call vote.
Mickey. For. Justin.
For it.
Rod.
For it.
Kim. For. Benny.
For.
Robert.
For.
Lester.
For.
Leon.
For.
Wade.
For.
Larry.
4.
10 for, none against.
10 for, none against on the THDA grant. Passes. The next one is the Justice Center.
2 cents. It's the lease payment, the interest for it. There's no other line in there to do a line item transfer, so you gotta take the fund balance from somewhere else throughout the budget. You guys gotta approve that.
Do I hear a motion for approval for the 2 cents?
I'll make that motion.
Commissioner Lester Gooden made it. Commissioner Robert Cooper seconded it. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Mickey. For. Justin.
For it.
Rod.
For it.
Kim. For. Robert.
For.
Benny.
For.
Lester.
For.
Leon.
For.
Larry.
For.
Wade.
For.
10 for, none against.
10 for, none against. The next one is the tourism for $3. Same, clean up.
Make a motion to approve.
Commissioner Lester Gooden made the motion, second by Commissioner Justin Miller. Any discussion on the $3 movement? Miss Marilyn, call the roll.
Mickey. For. Justin.
For it.
Rod.
For it.
Kim. For. Benny. Robert.
For.
Lester.
For.
Leon.
For.
Larry.
For.
Wade.
For.
10 for, none against.
Tourism passes, 10 for, none against. Next is the senior citizen. Miss Alice, do you want to address this?
On this one,
Kelly is?
on this first one, it's their utilities line.
Yeah.
I don't know this from past experience, but in Fort House, this is over every year. I'm not real sure why that's not budgeted out of the county buildings utilities, why it's not paid from there. I don't know why it's separated out. Every other county building's paid out of the county buildings utilities line, so I think in next year's budget, we need to look into fixing that, but this is to cover your overage in her utilities line, which is all gas, water, electric.
Do I hear a motion on this movement?
So moved.
So moved by Commissioner Lester Gooden. Second, or Justin Miller, I'm sorry.
That's pretty good, isn't it?
Y'all are sounding a lot alike tonight. Do I hear a second?
I second.
Commissioner Leon Stepp, second. Roll call, any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mickey. For. Justin.
For it.
Rod.
For it.
Kim. For. Benny.
For.
Robert.
For.
Lester.
For.
Leon.
For.
Larry.
For.
Wade.
For.
10 for, none against.
10 for, none against on the first one. Miss Kelly, you're doing the next one for the senior citizen. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Commissioner Justin Miller, second by Commissioner Mickey McDonald. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Mickey. For. Justin.
For it.
Ron.
For it.
Kim.
For.
Benny.
For.
Robert.
4.
Lester.
4.
Leon.
4.
Larry.
4.
Wade.
4.
10 for, none against.
10 for, none against. The second one for the senior citizen passes. The next one is the planning commission for $3,682.36.
This is where a quarter's worth of dues was left off in the budgeting process. We fixed that in this year's budget, and that's one thing that we discussed in the budget committee meeting. Don't know why or where, but one quarter's worth of dues was left out of the profit budgeting. There's a letter to show how much it would be from the get-go, from last year's and this year's dues didn't change, but that's how much one quarter's dues are to them.
Motion said.
Motion been made by Commissioner Benny Hughes,
Second.
second by Commissioner Kim Davison. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mickey. For. Justin.
For it.
Ron.
For it.
Kim.
For.
Benny.
4.
Robert.
4.
Lester.
4.
Leon.
4.
Larry.
4.
Wade.
4.
10 for, none against.
10 for, none against. Planning commission, that passes. Next is finance, $2,000. Tyler?
This is moving money where it was, budgeting the years, I was coming in, there's extra money budgeting to the director line because 2 people were being paid out of it. There's no longer 2 people paid out of it. We're moving because I'm having to pay out another employee out of that line that's switched positions. She's left the finance department, went to the Board of Education. And this line item will be over without this move. This payroll line will be over without this move.
Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Lester Gooden made a motion to approve. Second.
Second.
Robert Cooper, Commissioner, made the second. Any discussion? Roll call vote, Ms. Marilyn.
Mickey. For. Justin.
For it.
Ron.
For it.
Kim.
For.
Benny.
4.
Robert.
4.
Leon.
4.
Lester.
4.
Larry.
4.
Wade.
4.
10 for, none against.
10 for, none against. Motion passes. The next one is Board of Education, 10 items in Fund 141. Miss Sandy Canatra, she's going to speak to us tonight.
The first one that we'll look at is, it's listed as VPK, which is voluntary pre-K funds. All of this money is state money and is on a grant, and the grant is, we run them through E-Plan, which is our state bookkeeping system. The money that's in these grants has to match what's in local government. We have recently had a change in some personnel and found out that there was some revenue that had been added in the projected budgets. And so that's why these amendments have to come about, is we have to align these to our E-Plan. So budget number 1 is the alignment of the projected money coming from the bookkeeper to the actual monies that was in the grant. And the reason there are 4 is because there kind of has to be a paper trail for the auditors to show why we did that and what we did. Amendment number 2 is moving around some money within line items to cover the budget toward the end of the year. Budget number 3, in that section, is an additional monies of $3,800 that was granted by the state to be spent specifically in this fund to buy curriculum materials for this program. And then budget number 4 is the final cleanup. We received an email from the State Department to zero this account out, and anything that's left over in any line item is moved to line 429 to be spent for supplies for this program and to be only spent in this program. That's that one. You want me to keep going?
Keep going.
The next one is in the TEIS. The next 2 actually are in the TEIS program.
One is the center-based program and one is the home-based program. There again, the same situation. We had budgets that were submitted to local government that were estimated monies instead of using the actual budget monies. And number two is the cleanup money to get the line item to zero that account out for the end of the year. That's for both home and center-based. The third one is same situation in GP special ed funds. What was presented to local government was not actual figures that were in the grant monies. And then budget number two is the cleanup to cover expenses at the end of the year.
Can we vote on all at once?
I move that we approve to accept all budget amendments from the Board of Education.
Second.
Mr. Larry Cooper has made the motion to accept all the movements. Commissioner Mickey McDonald has seconded that. Is there any discussion on any of these? Roll call vote.
Mickey.
For.
Justin.
For it.
Rob.
For it.
Kim.
For.
Benny.
For.
Robert.
4.
Lester.
4.
Leon.
4.
Larry.
4.
Wade.
4.
10-4, none against.
10 for, none against. Budget amendment passes. Sheriff, $37.85 on one of them.
For the Medicare, on the drug time overtime pay, we pay it twice a year. Anybody works overtime, drug related, whether it's roundup or we have saturation, whatever.
There's 3 on one on that sheet. There'll be 3 moves on that one. That's reimbursed money for their drug time.
Okay. So all 3 of these right here.
Make a motion to approve all 3.
Motion been made by Commissioner Lester Gooden to approve them. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second was made by Commissioner Robert Cooper. Any discussion on any of these? Roll call vote.
Mickey.
For.
Justin.
For it.
Rob.
For it.
Kim.
For.
Benny.
4.
Robert.
4.
Lester.
4.
Leon.
4.
Larry.
4.
Wade.
4.
10-4, none against.
Is that your miscellaneous also? Yep, we voted on all 3 of them. You're very much welcome. And how's the garden? Looks good, okay.
Can we consider
We want miscellaneous here.
Yep.
That is where the hot water heater went out of jail. Use that some of that, in other capital outlay. Hot water heater was 23,000, Robert, is that right?
23,000.
Pretty sure we've got enough in there to cover that, but we'll be about 10,000 short to cover that. Out of the other capital outlay line we're paying.
I guess the warranty didn't cover that water heater, huh?
Well, it did.
That was about 6. It was about 6 weeks out. It was about 6 weeks getting it.
6 to 7 weeks out. We're gonna get a new water heater. We'll have that for a backup. So, but they took a little over 6 weeks for them to let us know.
They were out for about, what, 2 weeks?
2 weeks, yeah. So, I mean, we had to do something.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Lester Gooding. Do I hear a second?
I second that.
Second made by Mr. Leon Stepp. Any more discussion? Roll call vote.
Mickey.
For.
Justin.
For it.
Rob.
For it.
Kim.
For.
Benny.
4.
Robert.
4.
Lester.
4.
Leon.
4.
Larry.
4.
Wade.
4.
10-4, none against.
10 for, none against. Budget passes, amendment passes. Budget amendment for fire. Is anyone here from the fire department?
No, this is, and if you have no hit fund balance for this and have an idea of where else to take it from, but this was finishing up that project. We had a cash flow problem in that anyway. This was written out of a CDBG line, that CDBG grant they used to build the Palm shelter. This was written from the fire budget out of line item 706. CDBG was the cost center. I mean, I don't know nothing about it from when it was wrote, but the line's over this amount. And brought you one to hit fund balance for that amount. You guys got a different idea. I'm going to do something different with it. But there's $15,000 there. The line's over $15,000.
Is that the final payment, Tyler, on that?
Yeah, that was those final payments that were paid out to Tom Owens. I don't remember what the other ones paid to. Yes, that was final payment. I don't know. I mean, I don't know why it came from fire budget. I don't know anything about it.
Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Kim Davison. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Robert Cooper. Any discussion?
Tyler, where was this money supposed to come from?
Well, that CDBG was a grant.
Right.
It was set up in its own fund. I mean, there's not $15,000 cash in that fund to pay for this. There's like $500.
The final payment was $13,163 for the last fiscal year. So, why did we pay this guy $15,000 more?
Was it supposed to have been set up as a payable and it gets set up as a payable? Was that?
That line item got $0 budget.
Yeah, there was nothing budgeted to this line, but it was paid from this line.
But it was
Should this have been set up as a payable? I mean, if it was, then what was budgeted last year rolled into the budget.
I thought the final payments were made. We had the check off and everything was done, so I don't know how we came up with another $15,000 bill. Have you got a copy of the bill?
I can get one. I say I can get one.
We're gonna have to play it.
Was that one of?
Going the end of the year with it being overspent.
Was that one of the audit findings? Was that one of the audit?
Will be an audit finding.
Was it?
Mm-hmm.
Was it a previous audit finding for the last for?
No, there was an audit finding about payables and receivables weren't set up right at closing the year last year, and it caused some. It looked like a cash flow issue, but it was just because it was paid out in one year and the money coming in was dated in the next. It just should have been set up as payable and receivable and paid across the year end. But
There might be some timeline issues because there were some things they didn't resolve as they were required to, like by certain deadlines. And we held some money because there was some hot water problems, there was some water pressure problems. So I'm just wondering if that might have kicked us into another year. That's
not $15,000 in that Palm shelter budget that we had last year. There's a little bit in that, and it's a capital projects fund. There's a little bit there, still like $500, but there's not $15,000.
So, but that bill give us the detail as what we're paying.
It's not just one person. It's like Tom Owens. There's like 2 checks to Tom Owens. There's a check to somebody else.
Who's Tom Owens?
He was one of the construction, like there, we had to do a subcontract on that, remember?
One
We had
guy
to get
refused to
phase
build
orders.
it. Yeah. And then we had to get another guy. So is this the original guy or the second guy?
Listen, that project was finished. Stuff's coming in. I really don't know much about it. I know
We
that
can
there's
look at
like
the
2 checks to Tom
reimbursement
Owens
on
and
it,
a check to
but
somebody else.
The state has paid in, I don't think it's anything that's in fund balance. This is coming out of your CDBG fund. It's already been reimbursed by the state. It's just moving it into the proper line, right, Tyler?
Have you got the receipt showing that this has came in? Because this is just coming from fund balance. It doesn't show that the state's paid us.
I mean, I'm showing that we're hitting fund balance. Would it not have came in last fiscal year?
I don't understand why anything would come out of fund balance with a CDBG grant at all.
I don't know why it was paid out of the line with nothing budgeted. Cost center to CDBG. I don't know why it would have been paid out of the general fund anyways. It was a capital
Money
projects
shouldn't be
fund for a CDBG grant, and that was allotted to its own capital project.
Let's just let's just clarify this.
I'd pull that whole grant.
Whoever made the motion, they consider taking that back.
I will withdraw my motion. We'll table that till next meeting.
Kim Davison made the motion, and she's made a motion to withdraw her original motion. so we can pull some records to check this and come up the next meeting. End of the month, we have one. We have one scheduled the 27th. Okay.
Mayor Johnson?
Sir, ma'am.
I have to go, if there's nothing else legal on these budget amendments.
Thank you, ma'am, for your presence.
Thank you. Me and my gallbladder may or may not see you at the 27th.
Take care of that gallbladder.
Yes, yes.
One or the other? Need a second on that?
Give me a second.
Second.
Kim made the motion. Rod Williams seconded the motion to move it to the 27th. Any more discussion on it? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed likewise. Ambulance.
We got some overages in some lines. One of them was the secretary, of course. This is moving money out of medical personnel, line 131, into like 3 different other line items, 162, 169, or something like that. So it's just moving money within the budget there. So I'll ask for any extra.
That's a good sound, not no extra.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion been made by Lester Gooding, second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Mickey McDonald. In discussion. Roll call vote.
Mickey?
For.
Justin?
For it.
Rod?
For it.
Kim? For. Benny?
For.
Robert?
For.
Lester?
For.
Leon?
For.
Larry?
For.
Wade?
For.
10 for, none against.
1049, UT Extension.
This one as well, this is from last year. Should have been set up as a payable out of last year's budget, was not. The check was written from the account payable line, and we had to do a journal entry to fix that. But it was never set up as a payable in the system, so it hit this year's budget, causing this year's budget to be over. Basically, it was budgeted last year, but it wasn't used last year, so it would have went back into fund balance last year. Since it wasn't set up as a payable, it would have went back to fund balance last year. Now, we're having to pay, it's UT Extension dues to University of Tennessee.
Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion.
Motion by Commissioner Mickey McDonald. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Benny Hughes. Any further discussion? Hope not. Roll call vote, please.
Mickey?
For.
Justin?
For it.
Rod?
For it.
Kim?
For.
Benny?
For.
Robert?
For.
Lester?
For.
Leon?
For.
Larry?
For.
Wade?
For.
10 for, none against.
10 for, none against. Amendment passes. Okay, and any other business? We have a couple right here. The first one is a senior citizen. Miss Alice.
Do we have something on
We need to get monies put in the nutrition budget line item to cover our food order that we will have to place on the 26th of this month.
I think first we've got a resolution.
Yeah, we got a resolution, I'm sorry.
Move the cash flow in. And this is what we've discussed, is we'll have to set cash in there to set it up for this to operate for any cash flow issues. Because it's a reimbursement, so it's got to be spent and then reimbursed. So the first resolution is to move $20,000, which should cover 3 months worth,
Food and payroll.
to make sure that we've got sufficient cash flow in that fund to operate till we're reimbursed. If at any time the nutrition program is no longer, this money will go back to the general fund.
So so it's just initial startup cost. Because we gotta be prepared come July 1, feet on the ground, start feeding people. And that's just kind of what this is. So.
Because we have to place the food order, and it's actually in this fiscal year, and they don't post-date any invoices. It's the day you order it. So,
Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion.
Motion.
Second.
We don't have to vote on it, do we? Resolution. We're voting on the resolution at this time, correct?
Yeah.
Is that where we're at?
Yep. 2019-12.
That's the Fund 128 one.
Who made the motion? Mickey? Commissioner McDonald made the motion, second by Commissioner Davison. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Mickey?
For.
Justin?
For it.
Rod?
For it.
Kim?
Four.
Benny?
For.
Robert?
4.
Lester?
4.
Leon?
4.
Larry?
4.
Wade?
4.
10 for, none against.
Also, there's a budget amendment for the senior center. Your original budget amendment that came in your packet was 101. After some discussion this morning, we need to change that to 128 to the senior budget, because that's where it'll be reimbursed to, so that's where it needs to be spent from. We just allotted the cash to there. She needs to make an initial order before July 1st, because that's when she has to start feeding, so she'll have to have food on ground before then. So this is $3,000 going into a budget line so that we can make our first order to IWC for food.
That's the $3,000.
Yes.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Rod Williams, second by
Second.
Commissioner Mickey McDonald. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Mickey?
For.
Justin?
For it.
Rod?
For it.
Kim?
Four.
Benny?
4.
Robert?
4.
Lester?
4.
Leon?
4.
Larry?
4.
Wade?
4.
10 for, none against.
10 for, none against. We have one more. Is that 2019-13?
Yeah, one more resolution, and we've discussed this a little bit in budget meetings. Moving the debt service payment has to be passed by resolution since it was originally taken out of the general fund. The commission has to pass a resolution to take it out of the debt service fund now. A capital lease payment can be taken from the debt service fund, passed by resolution. I want to recommend that if you guys pass this resolution, you need to keep in mind that tax pennies will also need to be allotted to the debt service fund in order not to deplete it. This will prevent doing a trans every year, which the state frowns upon. They don't want you to have to do a reoccurring trans every year or interfund loan every year. And I don't think any of you guys like answering the questions that come with an interfund loan every year. So this would prevent that, because the debt service fund stays healthy, has a healthy cash balance all the time. It's not fluctuating like the general fund. This is the resolution just to move that capital lease payment to now come out of debt service in next year's budget.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Commissioner Robert Cooper. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Lester Gooden. Any more discussion? Roll call vote.
Mickey?
Pass.
Justin?
For it.
Rod?
For it.
Kim?
Four.
Benny?
4.
Robert?
4.
Lester?
4.
Leon?
4.
Larry?
4.
Wade?
4.
10 for, none against.
9-4, 1 passed. Commissioner McDonald passed. Okay, we will, any more business to come before? Do I hear a motion?
We recess.
Do I hear a motion to recess until the 27th, is that correct? Till the 27th?
Second.
Motion made, second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Don't forget to sign the resolution before you leave.
Did anybody? Before you take off.
For more than a century, Union Bank has been serving the people of Fentress County. Now, as we begin a new chapter in our history of service, we want to take this opportunity to reassure you that while our building may be new, we're still the same friendly people you have known for years. Union Bank, the same people, the same goals, and the same commitment to you. Union Bank, your locally owned hometown bank for more than a century, growing to meet your needs. Equal Housing Lender, member FDIC.